G'day, it's Bruce Bartlett here again. Today I just want to expand a little bit further on some of the sheet metal work that I've been doing on this underbody toolbox. Last time we spent some time just structuring up these first sort of 3 panels. And today I want to expand it into configurations and using configurations to control the sizes of these panels. You'll notice if we come over here, we've got our flyout on the side, and we saw last time we can use our flat pattern tool. But above that, we've actually got the configuration panel. First of all, I just want to point out configurations in assemblies aren't actually available yet, but you can actually change the configurations of parts in assemblies. Now, the first thing that we want to see is this icon here. As soon as I add a configuration to my part studio, so if I just go ahead and add a configuration, and we'll just leave that blank at this stage, but you'll notice that those icons have changed. So all of a sudden I've got a part here that is configurable. So we can change the size of it based on the configurations, and you'll see there it's coming up as default. Now, quite often I'm working with people and they accidentally put a configuration table in as playing with their part, and I think that they've got a part that's configurable, but it's not. And it's been placed on there by accident. Now, if you do actually put a configuration on there and you're getting those icons coming up in your assemblies, you can go in and you can always delete that configuration table if it's not being used. If we go back to the assembly, we'll see that those little icons have gone, and we're not getting the option to change the configuration of the part. So, configurations at this time are purely Part Studio based. So let's go ahead and add a configuration. Now, the really cool thing is we've got 3 options there. We can configure by a list or a table. We can configure by a checkbox, and we've also got an option to configure with a variable. First of all, I'm going to add a list style configuration in, where it lists in a table form, and we'll put some dimensions in. I'll also show you how the configuration variable works by adding a couple of dimensions in that can be set as a variable dimension, and I'm also going to add the checkbox where you can actually turn features on and off. And so we're going to turn this top hole on and off via a checkbox. So let's go ahead. We'll put the configuration table in, or the list in, and so I want to add rows along here with the different dimensions. So we'll add the dimensions. The dimensions are first of all on the top sketch here. So I can click the sketch, it goes in here. And I'll click the 700, and that should drop into the table, which it does. And then I also want the 350. Drops into the table, and we'll also add the 200. So now we've got those 3 dimensions there that can be varied. Now, before I you will see it's come up as default. I'm going to change that default to small, so we're going to have a small box. We'll go medium, so just by adding the rows now, and then we'll go large. Okay, so I've got 3 rows and I've got columns there that I can adjust sizes in. So we're actually, see that little blue there, that's telling us we're on the first configuration, but I also want to add the depth in as well, and that would be via this extrude. Now I can configure this is suppression of that, which I don't want to do that. I actually want to go in, and this is a little trick. Quite often with configurations, you actually want to go into the feature, not from the feature list, which purely with the extrude, you just work, all you can work on there is it's suppressing the feature, but I actually want to edit the feature, and then I want to configure from inside the feature. And it's really quite expansive what you can actually configure. So even to the level here, I can actually configure the symmetric. That comes up in the table, and you can see there I've got all the drop down and has I can add configurations of all those different features within that. Don't actually want to do that. We unconfigure that, and we configure the depth. So the depth comes in. We've got the 280 of the depth there. So that's configured. So now we've got a table that we can lay out with all the different sizes. So let's go through for the small. We make that 600. We'll make this one 900. And then we'll have this depth 250 for the small, 400 for the big. So it's very easy to lay out your dimensions now. So very easy. and we'll put those in. From this table here, I can switch to make that one, switch to that one. I can actually make a default one there as well. You saw that option come up. But what I would normally do, that table would be hidden away, and you have a dialog on the left-hand side here above your feature tree that you can actually select the different sizes. Now keep in mind this is still in the Part Studio, and that's where we've done all our work so far. And that's just switched to the medium. Now if we come to the assembly will still be on the default configurations, which would have been the one that we called small. Now you can see now that those icons are there, and if we wanted to change those parts in the assembly, what we'll do is we'll select all of them here. In this case, we'll select those, and we'll right click, but what we want to do is we change the configuration, and here you can change the configuration for all those to medium, or all those to large. So that's the way you can control your assembly. So now all those parts there, if we hover over them, they are set on the large configuration. So that's how you work with assemblies with configurations. Now if we come back into here, so we've got our 3 different configurations there. Now what's really cool about configurations in Onshape, you're not confined to purely having a table, but you've also can add 2 other options, which is one is the checkbox, and you can also add a configuration variable. So let's go ahead and we'll add a configuration variable here. We'll add that variable. Now you may remember I had this top part set up so it's adjustable, so we'll call this the rope rail. It's going to be our default of 80. Let's say it's going to be a maximum of 120 and going to be a minimum of 60. Actually, wrong way around. We'll want a minimum of 80. It's telling me that I've got it wrong, which is good. It's a good thing. Let's go that way. So now I've got a default of 80, minimum of 80, maximum of 120. Let's actually say that minimum of 60. There we go. So that works. And I'll add that, and that comes in as an extra line on my configuration layout for rope rail. Now here I've got rope rail, but I haven't actually got anything set yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set that, which down here on my second sketch, I think it was, edit that sketch, we had this 80 millimeters here that we want to change for our rope rail. So I'll right click on there and I will configure that dimension, but I won't configure it to the first configuration, which is the table. I'll actually configure it to this set to rope rail. So I can set it onto that rope rail, and so now I've got that dimension that is driven as a variable, and you'll see that it comes up in my configurations dialog at the top of the Part Studio tree, and I can change that from anything from within my range, and that will actually push that top area of my sheet metal box down. So you can see that has come down. We can go back to 60. And if you see, if I put 50 in there or something, it's going to come up red. You can't actually put something in that's not going to work, so you can have a little bit of smarts in there. Now, that was a length I put in, but what you can also do is you can put an angle. So let's go ahead and we'll add another one of those. And this time we'll call it an angle. It could be integer, or you could put a real, or you could put text in there as well. So if you want a text to come up on your configuration, that's another option as well. So we're going to default of 90 degrees, the minimum of 60, maximum of 90, back angle, give it a name. So everything's good to go there. And then I'm going to go into this sketch here. We'll edit that sketch, and this angle here was the one that we wanted to control. And it's giving us an option to put that onto the configuration table, but also the set back angle. Now the reason it's not coming up with this other one, because that one's already set, and you can only have one controlling dimension to each of those variables. So there we go. We've got our 90 there that should be controlled, and so now we can control the back angle on that part and let it rebuild, and it'll rebuild. So it's a really neat way of being able to add a variable in as a configuration. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is a checkbox. So we've got the checkbox there. Let's go ahead and we'll add the checkbox. We'll call this the top hole. So what I want to do is I want to have a checkbox to turn that top hole on and off. So we'll go ahead and we'll add that. So that's the top. And then that'll come up in my configurations there. So we can work from the feature tree and add it, but let's just go ahead and we'll add a feature from here. So let's add some features that we want to control with our checkbox. So first of all, I want to control this extrude. So I'll change that suppression there. Now let's see if I've got that right. So that's actually on there now. I've got that the wrong way around, haven't I? No, actually. So what I need to do is I need to, so see you got the two states there. So I need to turn it off. So I want that to be, the unsuppressed to be turned off in the state where that's turned off. So you see that checkbox is now turning that on and off. So I don't want the sketch to be there either. So what I can do is I can go ahead and I can add the sketch into that. So if I right click on the sketch, and you see I've got configure suppression, and let's put that top, and so that's in there now. So that sketch 3 is in there, so we want to turn that off in that state. So now we've able to control both the sketch and the feature, the extrude feature, to be turned on and off by using that checkbox. So it's a really neat way to be able to control your geometry or your part by these tables, by configuration variables, and also by checkboxes. So it's got quite a lot of power to be able to build parts up very easily based on rules that you can set. So one other thing that people like to do often is etch a part number onto their part. Say if you wanted to have the part number etched onto that back panel, there's a really cool way you can do that, actually using configurations as well. So what we want to do is you can actually add a sketch in on our sheet metal flat pattern. So we'll just expand this out so we can see it a bit better. So we'll go ahead and we'll add a sketch on here. This is going to be our part number, and we'll just leave it at default text at the moment, and I'll dimension that up. So now we've got a part number there in that corner. I'll close that off. Now what's really cool about this, you can actually configure that text. Actually no, sorry, we've got to be in the, we'll edit the sketch. And you can right click on the text and we can configure that text, configure it to the table. So now that text there has been added to the configuration table. So if I select up here, I've now got text that's configured to that configuration table. So you see how it's got default text there. So now if I change this to small, medium, and large, so now it's telling me I'm on my medium flat pattern. Let's close that sketch off and we'll just watch it here. So if I change to my small flat pattern, I'm now getting my part number that will come up and tell me that I'm displaying the small flat pattern here. So it's come small, changed, it's really cool, isn't it? So then we'll go to large, that will give us our large. Now what's really nice about this, being able to do this on the flat pattern as a sketch too, you're not actually adding it to the part, so it's not actually coming out in the part in your part view. And then as you export, if we export this, we can export DXF, right click, export DXF, so we're exporting that flat pattern, and you have the option to be able to include visible sketches. So that means that sketch will actually come in on the flat pattern and you'll be able to select that for etching. Cancel that, we won't export that. So it's just a really neat way of using configurations to drive that part number that you could be used for etching. So that's pretty much all for today. So thank you very much for watching. If you want us to check out some of the work I've done on this model, you'll find that as a public document under the underbody toolbox BAB name. Yeah, so I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know what else you might want to see me work on with this box. I'm going to put the door on next. So look forward to my next video. Thank you.